For decades, the world believed the great wars of power were fought with missiles and armies. They weren't. They were fought with money, fear, and silence. The cartels, once seen as outlaws, had evolved into corporate empires. Their networks spanned continents. Their cash flow rivaled nations. From the jungles of Sinaloa to the mansions of Caracas, they learned one universal truth: control the politicians, and you control the people. When the President of Mexico and the governors of every major border state began receiving quiet campaign donations, they weren't bribes, they were ultimatums. Play the game, or the game will play you. Borders softened. Agents disappeared. Whole convoys of narcotics crossed the frontier unchallenged, escorted not by smugglers, but by politicians' own security details. And behind them came the enforcers: Tren de Aragua, MS-13, Jalisco Nueva Generación, ghosts in tattoos and black SUVs, embedding themselves in every American city from Houston to Chicago. Tavian took the oath of office. The cartel bosses laughed. They had bought every man before him. They expected him to fall in line. He didn't. Unlike his predecessors, Tavian had no debts to the syndicates, no hidden bank accounts in Zurich, no family tied to foreign contracts. He came from the service, not the system, a soldier turned statesman, forged in the chaos of war and the moral vacuum that followed. The first week in office, he cut off 3 major cartel money routes disguised as humanitarian import programs. The markets shuddered. By week 2, he ordered an independent audit of foreign campaign funds. By week 3, his chief of staff's car exploded on the Washington Beltway. As Tavian began dismantling their hold, the cartels unleashed their second weapon: chaos. They funneled millions to extremist street groups masquerading as activists. Anti-fascist and anti-government collectives suddenly had matching uniforms and encrypted radios. Riots were staged in major cities: Chicago, Seattle, Philadelphia. The violence wasn't random. It was bait. Each riot drew in immigration agents, border task forces, and federal marshals, the same agents the cartels had placed bounties on. Every photo broadcast by the free press became a kill list. Within weeks, more than a dozen ICE officers were assassinated in broad daylight. The news networks called it a spontaneous uprising, but Tavian knew better. He had the financial trails, and worse, he had the names. Behind the chaos stood familiar fingerprints: the Chinese Communist Party, laundering billions through Caribbean shell companies to fund fentanyl distribution. Iranian intelligence networks, arming cartel militias under the guise of civil defense units. European shadow banks, moving the dirty money of half the world's dictators through green investment trusts. The global underworld wasn't divided anymore. It had merged. And standing in its center, smiling in silence, was the President of Mexico, hands washed in cartel gold and American blood. When Tavian exposed the connection between the cartels and the highest offices of 2 nations, the fake news machine went into overdrive. They painted him as a dictator, a conspiracy theorist, a man unfit for democracy. Networks received quiet payments through third-party PR firms, public awareness initiatives funded by offshore accounts in Panama. But Tavian had one advantage none of them saw coming: truth leaks faster than fear. In a televised address that would shake the world, Tavian presented intercepted communications, financial data, and hidden recordings from cartel emissaries threatening senior officials. His words burned like a torch through the fog of propaganda. This is not a war on drugs. This is a war on those who would sell the soul of a nation for a seat at their table. I will not kneel. I will not sell. And I will not stop. Within days, an attempt was made on his life in Dallas. The bullet missed. The message didn't. The next morning, Tavian invoked emergency authority to form Operation Shadowline, a joint counterintelligence and financial warfare program. Its targets weren't drug labs. They were politicians, bankers, and media executives who had played the cartel game. The operation swept through the corridors of Washington, Bogota, and Mexico City like a storm. Arrests in the hundreds. Asset seizures in the billions. Entire news networks suddenly offline for maintenance. And when the dust cleared, the syndicates that once ruled through fear faced something they'd never encountered before. A man who couldn't be bought, and a people who finally saw the truth. The war didn't end overnight. Evil never does. But when the cartels looked north, they no longer saw a border they could walk through. They saw a wall of resolve, built not from concrete, but from courage. Tavian stood before the nation one final time. They called this the cartel game. But games end when someone stops playing. Today, the Republic stands again, not for sale, not afraid, and not alone. The crowd roared, the cameras shook, and somewhere in a darkened compound deep in Sinaloa, a cartel king crushed his glass against the wall, realizing the game was finally over.